Welcome, everyone, to Making Waves. This is our first episode of the year 2021. So welcome. We do appreciate your time tonight. My name is Justin.
And I'm Chad.
Yes, welcome. Again, guys, this is Making Waves, the ShipRocked podcast. And tonight we have a very special guest, and we thank him for being our first guy out of the box this year. Well, please welcome Josh from the band Badflower.
Hi, hello. I'm your first one. That's so cool.
Yeah, listen.
You couldn't anybody better for the first one?
No, actually, you know what, man? We had a little bit of a poll, and we were kind of kicking around. We thought, man, you're perfect. Actually, you guys were such a huge hit on the last ShipRocked that it just made sense. So,
plus we know how badly you wanted to be on the podcast because we got the text messages. So here we are.
Well, I love you all so much. You're like my favorite thing. So this is great.
Well, listen, man, we really, again, like we said, we really appreciate your time. There's definitely some things we want to talk about with you. Some of it's not music related. It's more what's going on in your life and what you're up to. But the first thing we obviously want to talk about is just, again, congratulations on the success of the first album. And obviously the song Ghost, which really took off for you guys. And I'd really like the story behind the song 30.
You'd like to hear the story behind it?
Yeah, what's this? What's it? I've kind of read a few things about it. What's your take on the song? What was the inspiration behind the song 30 you guys released here in 2020?
Well, I mean, there's a couple things. I mean, one, I turned 30 the day that it released, and I started writing that song knowing that day was coming. And I hate aging so much. Like, I hate the idea of getting older. And then on top of that, it's being 30 and being a musician right now in this time in history. It's a really strange time, and life is all existing on the internet, and the kids are taking over, and people in the millennial era. We're sort of in this like weird in between days where we kind of fit in with them, and we kind of fit in with them, and we don't know anything, and nobody knows anything, and everyone hates each other, and it's easy. And so that's how I'm feeling right now at 30 years old in 2020.
Do you think with becoming 30 now, you're kind of in this new league of basically you gain the wisdom you're going to gain, obviously, as you go through your 30s? There's always usually a high point for people. When they get out of their 20s, they're kind of like experimenting around, but you hit 30, now you're like the full-fledged adult. Was there a worry behind the idea of being a musician and being 30, or are you just personally like 30 is kind of a tough number?
I mean, even just you saying that, I'm like, ugh, why am I still doing the rock star thing at 30? But luckily I don't look it. I'm totally a lot younger than me, and I don't feel any older. Really still, and that's the theme of this song is like, how come I still act like a child and feel like a child? Am I supposed to? Is there something wrong with me, or is this normal at 30? Because nothing has changed. I still feel and act like I'm 25. Like, I guess I'm a little bit more calmed down than when I was like 23, 24, but pretty much the same guy.
Yeah, I'd definitely like Chad's idea on aging as a musician on this.
What's my idea?
Yeah, what is your idea on aging as a musician?
I turned 37 this year, Josh, and my band broke up. I sang in a band called Wilson. We've met each other a few times, but I think when I first met you, I had a big beard.
Yeah. I recognize you. That's great.
And when I turned 36, which would have been the year that we broke up, we called it in 2019. Every day that I was 36 and in a van and trailer, it felt like the worst day of my life. And not in like a bad, like, not because I didn't want to do this, but my body hurt and my mind and all the other places that I think we're alone now. I think we're alone now. We should just do this vocally, guys, voice wise. Because the lag.
You sound like a robot on my end.
Yeah, do I? Yeah, I think we might want to kill the video and just go straight to voice if
guys,
that's
I can
possible.
do that. I'm ready to drop all your cameras unless you want to turn off your own cameras, whatever you feel is best.
Let's see if that helps. That way.
There we go. I'm dropped. I'm sorry, guys. It really is. It's our internet.
No. We just don't want to. I don't want to make it frustrating for you. You know, like having, you know, the audio choppy. If you can't hear us and then we can't hear you, then you know we'll end up having to toss it, and that would be a waste of your time, and that would suck.
Right. Well, is this any better?
Yeah, absolutely, 1,000%. Yeah, 1,000% better.
Awesome.
Oh, but Chad, you were saying that basically as you're touring and stuff, as you get older, obviously the body hurts a little bit more from just the rigors of the road.
Yeah, I don't know about Josh. What I can say to you about 30 is that the next 5 years are going to eat ass, like every day, the most disgusting ass that you have ever ate. And I apologize in advance for it. I love what you did with 30. And I think that not only is the song incredible, but this version of coming to grips with what it is. I as a 37-year-old man, I was like, fuck yes, thank you for saying it, you know? To champion that for you a little bit more. How do you feel the rest of your band relates to that song with you?
We're all around the same age. My drummer is 32, I think, and bass player is about to turn 30. He's 29, and he just got married, by the way, like 2 days ago. So congrats to him. He literally just went off to Vegas, didn't tell anybody. Pretty awesome. Yeah, which is like even just that. I'm like, you got married? My drummer was already married. Like, why are people getting married and having kids and shit? It's weird. Stop it.
Seriously.
But at the same time, like, you struck a nerve when you said like being 36 and still in the van trailer. Like that hurt. I'm sorry that you went through that. That hurt me to hear. And something that we've always said was as soon as we got to the bus, which wasn't that long ago, but as soon as we got out of the van trailer and we were able to afford the bus, we're like, look, if we ever have to do another tour where we can't afford the bus, our band's done. We quit. Like, exactly. There's no way. We're not doing it again. Like, once we reach this point, it's like you can't go back from here. And luckily, like 30 was successful, and everything that we've done since getting into the bus has been good, and we're still okay. So that's better. It's only fun doing the van and trailer thing when you're like a kid and you're like, oh, we're touring, this is so cool. And then once it's your job and you're like, I cannot afford to tour any other way, but I have to play shows to make money, which means I have to pile into a van with like 6 other people, and this is what we have to do. It's tough.
Absolutely, man. And I it's just watching you guys from the come up, because I am a big fan. My band in general, Wilson, we were really, 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 really into you right off the bat. I mean, your first EP was on constant rotation back, I think, in like 2018 when it came out. We had heard the first song, I believe it was called Soap or Animal. And we were constantly playing it, and then the EP came out, and I kept thinking about what was next for your band at that period of time. And I've been doing this for a long time. My band Wilson has at that point in time had been around for 10 years. We toured with all the bands that you've toured with, and went to all the places that at that time before this Badflower ended up going to. And I was like, man, this band's gonna fucking break. Like there's something so honest and so pure about what's going on here that it can't not. And I'm so happy to hear that like the world served you the way that you deserve to be served, not just as a songwriter, but as the beacon for other bands coming up in the rock space. Like when you see that momentum, it's really encouraging. So I wanted to at least say that to get it out of the way.
Thank you. Man, yeah, you know what? Like
it's all around.
It is. It's all about that vulnerability and honesty. I found that for us. I think it's just too difficult to break as a newer band if you're trying to sound like your heroes, you're trying to sound like other people. Like, you really have to have your own thing that nobody else can do better. At least try to find that. And it's a constant search for that. Like, we're still searching for it. And we've done little things here and there that I'm like, wow, this is very unique to us. And I might hear other bands maybe try to emulate that. But I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate you championing us in that way for the right reasons. I feel like that's nice to hear.
Well, my pleasure, man. It was really it was a reason to be motivated to stay for another year in that van and trailer, being like, well, maybe we'll play with them.
Did we do ShipRocked together? We did, right? We had.
Yeah, we did. Yep, we did.
That's right. And apparently the festival was Shinedown. I'm hearing.
We did all of the rock festivals with you guys. I mean, one of the things that we noticed right off the bat is, and this kind of goes into the next, I don't want to take too much away from where Justin might be going here, but one of the things we noticed right off the bat when your EP came out is, okay, we didn't know John Varvatos had a label, right? And,
yeah.
Paying attention to what happens next with your band when you're like me and you're super into like the growth of the early zygote that is music, and watching, we were best friends with Nothing More, Shinedown, all those guys. So watching them come on board and praise and bring that up, it was like, okay, so then what's next? And then watching your singles move to where they did in the charts. And rock radio, for all it's not worth in 2020, there's still a story there. And for our world, we pay attention to it. Not just the DSPs, but like where are they going to go in these festival spaces? And largely, those spots are kind of like reserved for who is charting, across the radio spectrum. And so, anyways, we did play with you, and I watched you very, very vehemently because my agent Bex Majors was I believe your agent for Europe. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's the same company, but Bex was always sort of coming around. She's become a friend, and
she was the one who introduced us to your band. We went and watched you guys at like one of the Danny Wimmer festivals, and I was like, they can fucking do it live too, man. Yeah, man. I mean, so cool to hear about what you got going on now. I don't know if Justin wants to chime in here because I don't want to bogart this, but even moving into where you're specifically at, why we're able to like talk to you right now is kind of like a goal of a lot of people. So I'm jealous. I'm jealous in a sense.
Yeah.
Justin, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I've got a few things actually. I don't want to kick this around too much, but I want to go back to 30, but I also want to go back to Ghost, because you're telling a lot of stories that are deeply moving to your fan base. I mean, one of them is about getting older, and fans like the idea that they can find some solace in what you're saying, that you're kind of in the same boat as them, because what happens with our bands and the people we really enjoy, we tend to forget that they age as well. They're going through the human experience as well. We always just think, oh, they're a rock star, or they're a guitar player. They're not going through the same things as me. So you got that. And then you got Ghost, which is really about the darker elements of sometimes people's lives with depression.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of response back from your fans via social media or maybe personal notes regarding how you're kind of helping bring them out of that darkness and into the light through some of your music?
A lot. Yeah. And we love that, because it's, if we're helping somebody in any sort of way, that's like the most rewarding feeling. But then it also just kind of validates our creative process and the way that we like to do things. Like, we're rewarded for being as real as possible, and it helps people. And it's just this like big full circle thing where it's just all positivity. The more negative you go into your own mind and in a way that might relate with other people, the more positive the outcome of that is. And that's an interesting quality about art that doesn't really exist anywhere else in physics, I don't think. It's cool.
No, it's very endearing, and obviously fans hold you close in that way. On the other side of this is, I want to go back to your deal with Big Label and John Varvatos. You obviously, you guys come from a very cerebral place where we just spoke about how you do affect your fans and some of their psyche. But then you're with Varvatos, who's known as a big fashion icon for rock and roll, and you guys just happen to be one of 3 or 4 artists that he's got. I mean, that's got to be kind of interesting to realize that now, not only do you have Big Machine and the people behind that to help move your product, but you're also now attached to someone who takes you into another element, which is the fashion scene. So you guys are able to straddle kind of the glitz and glamour of rock with him, and being attached to that, but you're also, again, you can kick back to being this band of the fans.
It's sort of like it's an interesting thing because we're so not a fashion or like visually driven band. Like a lot of bands
Sure.
they put a lot of effort into their outfits and their photo shoots and the way they look, and we put effort into like the music videos because it's a storytelling element, but we don't put effort there, and John knows that, and he knows that we've always been that way, and he's never really pushed the fashion side of what he does onto us, and that's what makes like it really. I forget that he's a fashion designer because when I'm talking to John, he's just one of the heads of the label. That's just that's the way that we speak. And when sometimes clothing comes into it, like he asked us to be part of his campaign. I don't remember what, I guess last year, 2 years ago, something. And that was crazy because it's like now we got to be models in New York City. We were like plastered all over these like 20-foot billboards and shit like that. And it was cool, but it was such like, John doesn't push that stuff on us, and it's such a small part of what our relationship is. But every now and again, it does pop up, and there are perks to it. So it's
funny because I talked to one of your label mates, Aaron Jones, about a month ago, and he said the same thing. He says, yeah, John's known for that, but he doesn't really push it. He'll have me wear a jacket or do a photo shoot, but it's not his game. He likes
he doesn't even have you do it. He'll just ask if you want it. He'll be like, hey, you guys want to, come to the store and pick out some stuff for your photo shoot? And we might pick some stuff out and we might not, and it doesn't matter. Like it's not like he wouldn't get personally offended if we were like, I just want to wear something different.
Sure. No, it's really good to know though that someone who is from another creative background has basically taken his love and made it into a vehicle where bands like yourself can kind of springboard off of that.
Yeah, totally. And
so it's a refreshing take.
He was born for many things outside of fashion, and this is obviously one of them. He's one of those.
Absolutely.
Like he's got so much drive and so much passion. He's so smart. It's really an honor to have him on the team.
Yeah.
With that being said, man, there's a lot like I looked into your story outside of what I've heard from my friends in Los Angeles. I too, well, I know you're not in Los Angeles now, but I was living in Los Angeles between Detroit and there, currently in Detroit. And you've had like a lot of these residencies that I think are like some of the coolest things in our like little clique of rock that they only really exist in like New York or Los Angeles. I just want to stretch back a little further here. And I know that the band didn't really start as Badflower, and that Badflower is like a reimagined version of the first go at it. But can you kind of like, for sake of bringing us all up to speed, can you kind of like tell us about like why it turned into Badflower and where you really start to find your legs in the LA scene,
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of stories there. I've always been making music. I've always just been a very creative person, and music came naturally, and I loved it. And I started like, I'm a piano player initially, and then I started, getting into drugs in high school, and I got into rock music, and I got into all kinds of stuff. And I was like one of the first kids who was recording on his computer in his bedroom, like before it was cool and everybody had a SoundCloud account. Like I was doing that, just making, just making music all the time, printing CDs, bringing them to school and showing my friends. Like that's what I used to do. And then the band thing started, and it like, we didn't take it that serious. Like we did take it seriously, but we didn't really have a direction. We sort of sounded like the Beatles, kind of like that's what we thought was cool and we wanted to do. It wasn't very heavy. And it was kind of all over the place and unfocused. I don't think we knew who we were as people. And this was Joey and I in the early stages. So my guitarist, Joey, we've been together for a while. But the other two members we didn't get till later. And then, honestly, I got into a relationship with somebody who was successful in music, who had also dated, this is a very strange thing, but it's true, who had also dated other like rock stars, like much bigger rock stars. And there was a bit of jealousy and like, I don't know what it was, but I realized that I could get heavier and I could do it well. And then I became a fan. Like it wasn't just like jealousy. I became a fan of a certain style of music, and I realized there was a lot of angst to get out, and I didn't have to try to be Paul McCartney reincarnate. Like that wasn't going to work for me. It wasn't my thing. And so I wrote that song Animal that you were talking about. That was like the first real heavy sort of, obviously very bluesy song. And from there, it felt like that worked. I finally felt like there was some sort of staple of my identity that I was pulling out, at least sonically, not really lyrically, but sonically. And then I met the other members. We eventually formed this, and it became so different. We changed the band name, and we just like as soon as it became Badflower, we really figured it out. You know, like we hit the ground running, and we figured out who we were a lot more than we had previously.
Yeah, and then, I mean, I would assume that once your confidence is there, when you step up on the stage of whatever room it is in Los Angeles, that kind of like it wreaks havoc in the room. People are paying attention, and, and you know, like coming into like.
And it's hard to do in Los Angeles too, and I think that's a testament to the way that we perform now. In LA, nobody cares. It's really hard to stand out there. But that's where we cut our teeth. That's where we got our start. We did do residencies. Like we had a residency at the Key Club before, you know, that's closed down now, but the Key Club used to be an awesome club, and we were one of the last bands to play it. Yeah, Metal School, that's right. Metal School was like Tuesdays, and we had the residency on Mondays or something like that, and not very many people showed up. It wasn't huge. But the very first Badflower show was there. We started the residency as the first band name, and we finished it as the other.
Oh, nice.
And then, then just like we played Mexican restaurants in LA. Like we played all over the place. We played anywhere that would have us. Never again. Oh my God. When I think back at that, like how cringy and awkward some of those shows were, I could never do that again. But we learned a lot. And I had such bad panic disorder that sort of came in and out throughout my life. That was like another big part of why I started performing, was to try to break this panic disorder that I had. It was just so debilitating for such a long time that I just like literally went head first into the thing that scared me the most, which was being in front of people and like social situations like that.
Yeah.
And here we are. And I still have that fear, and I still have trouble performing, but I think now I sort of embrace that as part of who I am, and part of what makes me unique as a performer is the fact that even when I look my most confident, I'm fucking terrified. And
I don't think that ever really leaves you, but you know, like not to bum you out, but I mean, because you've
what I'm saying is I like it.
Yeah, you do. Okay, good.
Yeah, because now if I didn't have that, I think I would start to get lazy in my approach as an artist. It keeps me like I could get paid $3 million per show, and I would still have that feeling, which means I would still want to put the same amount of effort in, and I would still be so afraid to fail that it would make me my best. Like I don't think I can ever get comfortable and then just start creating mediocre art, or just, you know what I mean? So I like it. I like it for that reason. It keeps the fire lit under my ass.
Don't pull a Marilyn Manson, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know in person, but that's
hey, Josh, I for one love the idea of a residency the way you guys did it, because we always think about residencies like that and bands cutting their teeth. We always think about the Star Club and the Beatles in Hamburg in '64.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they wouldn't have become the band they were without those. I'm not saying you need to do 8 45-minute sets a night on methamphetamines, but I mean, it does help to kind of play to those small crowds. So you're just working on your art and not worrying about what's in front of you.
Yeah.
You know what? Getting that connection.
That too. We used to play high schools like way back in the day. We used to go.
Perfect.
We used to go to high schools. This is the worst thing that you can do as a band. We used to go to high schools, bring our own PA system, set up our thing, play a 15-minute show during lunchtime out wherever all the kids are hanging out, and then try to sell our CDs on the campus. It was the worst. People would kick kickballs at us and shit. It was terrible. But
that's so awesome to hear.
You stronger.
Well, dude, you know, yes. Rush did that. Rush did that as kids. So you're in good company, my friend.
Yeah. Again, it's another one of those things that like it's fun to talk about as a staple in the history of this band, but I would like never, ever, ever again. I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. Like having to play in the worst. High school kids are the meanest people ever. They're so mean.
I can imagine now they're just absolutely just tyrants.
Oh, I can't even imagine now. This was back in like 2015, probably 14, maybe even earlier. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, they're probably
wouldn't even show up.
No, they would all purposely leave, and they'd all be on their phones tweeting about how much they hate the music. I don't know.
Well, they probably just set up their phones and then like leave and then come back and retrieve their phones after your show is over and go, got the show.
No way, because they'd never be without their phones.
True. I'm sorry. I misspoke. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can literally picture you, Josh, like, because I've done it, man. I'm from a small town in Detroit, in Michigan, and we rented out VFW halls. You know, I was the guy who threw all the shows, right? I rented the speakers. I you know, I made the fucking the flyers. I booked the bands. We charged $3, right? And I also did the thing where I'd show up at like community colleges or high schools, and just like you're saying, you bring your gear in, and when you're carrying your gear in at that moment, you think that you're hot fucking shit. Like there's a part of you is like, yeah, shit's gonna go down, motherfuckers. You don't even know. We're about to rock your fucking faces off. But carrying your gear out of those situations is like the 100% opposite. And it's like, shit went down and you took a turd all on my face, and I'm gonna wear it now as I walk through the courtyard carrying my shitty amp that barely fucking works anymore, right?
You know what though? I don't even think I had that first part of it you had. I think even carrying my gear in, I was like, I'm sorry for what's about to happen. I'm so sorry. It's just gonna be loud and obnoxious, and it's gonna be Sublime covers, and I'm so sorry. and then
it's not the Sublime covers that you don't know. You know, it's like the B sides, right?
Yeah,
you're like, no fucking way, I'm not.
It was the one we knew. It was like Badfish. Like everybody knows it. And we're sick of reading it.
Oh, I love that.
But then we got to eat school lunches, which was pretty cool. Like, as
are you talking about like French bread pizzas, like nachos and cheese?
Yeah, whatever they like. The worst. It's so unhealthy. I'm vegan now, so I would never eat any of that stuff. But the schools used to feed us their lunch.
Oh God!
Well, at least they didn't kick your ass and take your lunch. That's pretty good. That's a Michigan thing, I think.
You know what's crazy though? They're still like, we'll still do shows now, and every now and again in the crowd, like someone will show up in a meet and greet. Like, you played my high school in Phoenix, Arizona, 8 years ago, and I've just been a fan ever since. So like, it's crazy, but it still carries over. It's wild.
Yeah, that's vindication right there, man. So cool. So cool. I got a question for you. If Justin doesn't have anything to add to the school lunch conversation we're having here.
No, I mean, I have an outlier due to that one, but please by all means, please.
No, then you ask Justin, because I'm going to move on to Nashville, so I'm going to want to make sure that I don't.
Well, actually, yes, we can. This will tie into Nashville, I believe. I think. Cool. Yes, it will.
So Josh, you're outside of Nashville, but close enough for everybody who's listening. What's the town that you're in or around, or what's the larger space? Is it Franklin, you said?
No, we're south of Franklin. I'm keeping the town on the DL for now, because it's really, really small, and
it's just you.
And we don't have a gate. It's pretty much like, we're just out in the middle. So I as of now, I'm not saying what the town is.
Well, for all intents and purposes, you're in Nashville now.
Yeah.
And why? So can you, because like the one thing I wanted to ask you about, you're from the Los Angeles area, right? Or I forget, is it right outside of Los Angeles? Where were you kind of?
Yeah, I'm from the Valley, San Fernando Valley.
Okay, cool. So like, obviously, even when years ago when you started the band, Nashville and Los Angeles are way different. Today, they're a little bit closer in the fact that like there's the music community and whatnot. But I would probably have to guess here. I mean, because LA can be such a wickedly awful place at times, you know, and for many people who are living there, and you know, the ruse that is the chore of you know, being in Los Angeles and playing the kind of sort of game that it is. What kind of motivated your move to Nashville? And like, is there any sort of like version of yourself that feels more comfortable there at this point? I know it's a newer revelation of yours, so
yeah, well,
to be like, bam, you know.
No, I've always wanted a lot of land. Like, it's been a dream of mine to have just acreage that I can do whatever I want with. So I do a lot more than just write music. I'm just creative in a lot of ways. I like to build stuff. I just like, I like to tinker, and I need space to be able to tinker in the ways that I want to tinker. For example, now, like, I'm covered in drywall dust because I'm building a studio in a barn. And I also want, like, I want an animal rescue eventually. And there's all kinds of stuff that I just want to do, and I can't have these things, not even just in Los Angeles, but in California. Before I moved here, I wasn't even living in LA. I was hours north of LA in the desert, or northeast. Yeah, so I've been living like kind of in the social aspect. So it's interesting, like, I didn't move to Nashville for the music scene like a lot of people do. I moved close enough to Nashville because our label is there and there is a music scene there when I want to go in. But really, like, I'm out and I'm living on my own country right now. That's how it feels. Like, I'm just very, very secluded, and I have my core group of people. Like, I did this with a couple friends who are also members of the team Badflower. And yeah, so I wanted this to be like the hub. Joey, our guitarist, lives in Nashville as well, and now our bass player and drummer live in Pittsburgh, which isn't terribly far. You know, it's a really quick, cheap flight.
Yeah.
And so we used to be based in LA, and everybody got out, and so this just made sense. And I was like, cool, if everybody's getting out and I want to get out and I don't want to live in LA or anywhere near it, and I can't afford to live anywhere there either, because especially with COVID hitting, I'm just going to go buy a farm in Tennessee. And fuck you, the world. I'm going to go buy a farm, and that's that. And that's what we did. And it's been crazy. Like, it's a lot of work, and the Wi-Fi sucks, but it's so, like, I'm so happy here. I'm so much happier here with this space and land to just, like, be free to do whatever I want. Look, I can make as much noise as I want at 3 a.m. and nobody can hear it. Like, that's what I wanted. I can just like be free.
Yeah, and the Wi-Fi sucks, and that's like probably got to be pretty fucking kick-ass too, because now like you don't have to be on.
My phone, I used to feel naked when I didn't have my phone in my pocket, and since living here, I never have my phone in my pocket. I'm never on it. I don't care, and obviously my manager lives here with us, so like if something is pressing, Badflower related, she'll just come find me and be like, "Hey, you need to take a call or do something."
Right.
I guess if I didn't have, I would have to have my phone on me, but as of now, I just don't. I just live my life.
Do you have like a Josh bell? She rings it when you're out in the farm, like, you gotta come in, sweetie, and take a phone call.
There is a dinner bell that we have never used, but I'm staring at it right now. It's like when dinner's ready, it's a loud bell.
I love that.
Hey, Josh, let me ask you then, with you guys kind of like transplanting and moving into these kind of new environments, especially yourself, how does that affect the way you go about your writing, or will it affect kind of the tone of the new record, or how is this, or is this just basically another evolution for the band? You know, when you're young and in the city, the music has a certain sound, a certain energy to it, right?
Yes and no. I don't know. So much of our songs are just about whatever's literally on my mind at the moment, or festering deep inside, I guess. And so I don't think my environment, unless it's like my friendships and relationships and things like that, which that doesn't change being here. Like it's all the same. I think the thing that changes is because I have this space and freedom here to be as loud and obnoxious as I want, it'll make me just more creative. Like, I'm used to living in a house with other people, and if I want to like get loud at 3 a.m. because I'm feeling creative and want to record something, I feel weird doing it because there's people sleeping around and somebody's going to hear me. And that's one of the things I didn't want in my life. And now I never have to have that ever again. So I think I'll just probably be writing songs more frequently and more easily. And now it's easier to get out the entire band in one place. Like, getting everybody to LA was tricky. And so we had been working in Nashville anyway, but we're renting a studio out somewhere in Nashville and paying for it, and everybody's in Airbnbs. And so now it's just like, we're setting this place up to be the hub where everybody just comes and hangs out and writes music and records and everything.
That's incredible.
Well, it sounds like, yeah.
Sorry, I was just asking, is that like do you have like a compound thing going on? Is it like like you said that some people are living there? Is that, when you say Joey's there, is he like literally there on the farm, or is he just close?
No, Joey's in Nashville. He's like in East Nashville doing the Nashville thing. Gotcha. But my tour manager, and I don't know how to describe these people I work with, but they're Team Badflower people. 2 of them bought this farm with me. So 3 of us live here. One of them is gone right now. And it's kind of like, it's going to become sort of a communal thing. Like, we have a little lake on the property, and I want to build a little dock and tiny homes on the lake where everybody can come stay, and it's all cute. And like, I want to do all that stuff. So right now it's just like it's like the bones of something that's going to become something magical, hopefully, as long as our band still does well and we can afford to do stuff.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's like my dream.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so jealous. That's awesome. This animal rescue, is this coming about like right now, or is this something that like is in the background working?
Yeah, it's not. There's a lot to do before we're able to do that. So the property currently it's like designed for horses, and there's some horses that like we have boarders who keep their horses here. It's a long story about this place, but we have horses here currently, and the horses are amazing. I didn't expect to love them as much as I now love them. Like they're just so cool.
Yeah.
But my dream is to save cows. Like I don't eat meat or cheese or anything like that, and I'm a big supporter. I'm just a big stan of cows. I love cows, and so
cows.
So I want to rescue them, and I want to get as many cows as I possibly can for them to live out the rest of their lives happily and comfortably on the farm. And like, you know, I honestly, I'm ridiculous with this. Like, I imagine a cow just like coming in and like eating food off the kitchen table, like in the house with the dogs. Like, I just want this insane life. Like, I'm trying to make a record, and the cow is scratching at the door, trying to get in. Like, that's what I want. It's like, yeah.
Well, it's funny because we had LeJean on not too long ago, and him and his wife, they have a pretty sizable place out there in is it Missouri, Chad?
Yeah, they're outside of Kansas City.
Okay, they have a farm, and then Josh, are you familiar with Rob Fenn?
No.
Rob's a photographer for Rob Zombie and Ozzy and a couple other large acts. He himself he's a vegan as well. He just put out a plant-based cookbook, but he, like you, he bought like a 5-acre ranch, and it's an animal sanctuary now. So I love seeing this move by a lot of artists. I mean, look, Nikki Sixx moved out of LA, moved to Wyoming. So it's kind of like, I love this idea of people moving out and getting their own space to open up their minds and get away from the noise, because their life and career is basically, you know, noise. You know?
Well, all of that noise already exists on your phone. Like that's where it exists now. Like you don't need to be in LA. You just need an Instagram account. Now you're in LA. Same thing. So what's the point of? There's really no point of being in a certain city anymore. I mean, there used to be.
Yeah.
There just isn't now, especially with COVID. This is happening before COVID, but now that COVID hit, it's like it's becoming very clear to a lot of people. Oh, we can still survive. I mean, some people can't survive. Like the music industry, for one, is really not doing so well. But that's because of touring. All the rest of it can be done anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that you bring that up, because I just had this conversation pretty often with a few different friends of mine who are in Los Angeles. Like, I have no wishes to be permanently in Los Angeles. It's just like where I ended up here between places, right? But I can see it. I saw it as soon as we started to shut down. I've been a talent buyer for a production company producing live concerts across the state of Michigan for 15 years, as well as being in a touring band for 11 of those 15 years. And so I enter rooms often, right? You know, like on tour, and I know everything there is to know about the front of the house, the back of the house, and, you know, how the bands get there, everything. You know, I'm the guy who made the shows happen. And I see this happening in many of other spaces, for not just in the music industry, but careers where you can work mobily and you don't necessarily need to be anywhere. Like, being a talent buyer, I never had to be at a desk. I just had to be at my phone or at my computer, right? And you're what we're facing here is something that I don't think a lot of people are like registered in their mind to really understand. You know, like when this shit's over, hopefully when it's over, like nobody needs to be in these spaces at an office. Brick and mortar's going away. You know, like, and if I'm a boss and I have to pay this lease or I own this crazy building that's costing me so much fucking money, I'm not taking that back on. As soon as I can get out of it, it's over. Go work, go live where you live. And you know, companies like Apple, they're seeing, you know, double their value in their employees by extending what is the freedom to work where you are. And I just think that there's something special about that, turning this back around to Nashville and what you're doing. There's something special about it, because you're probably going to be more productive, not just even in a songwriting way, but in a creative way. Like you said, you're building things with your hands. You couldn't fucking do that in Los Angeles if you wanted to. I tried to make a fucking table once for my apartment there, and you know, it cost me like $2,000 to find a space to even fucking bring the wood in, you know? And that's crazy to me. And where you are here is just another sign that says you don't have to eat shit every day, right? Yeah. You can be you.
I mean, I have to spread shit every day across the
yeah. Well, you know, it's up to you if you want to eat it. It looks delicious. I'd probably snack on it.
No, and there's no mushrooms there either.
It's a fable, isn't it?
That's when we need cows.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that. 'Cause, I mean, not only do I think that moving out and getting land, like Justin said, and spreading your wings and figuring out what else you can do with your, as of now, your idle hands, it's really got to bring some sort of relief to the mental strife that you were, like you said, going through.
Well, it's like now there's physical strife. Now it's like I gotta keep the furnace going to stay warm, and I have to, there's like I'm doing physical labor stuff, and there's really something to be said about how rewarding that is mentally, and how stable I feel when I'm not just living in like Instagram la la land, which is primarily my job. Like my job is, other than playing shows, it's like managing social media and being this character all the time. And I like that I get to do that. Like it's fun to do, but it's not like that. I don't identify with that guy all the time. Really, just like I like being chilled out and doing labor, working with my hands. Like I don't like. I love my job to death. I'm in a position that people would kill to be in. But there really is, to anybody listening out there who has a job that they think they hate because it's, they want something different with their lives. Like there's a lot of joy in this. In like in the simpler way to live than the celebrity attempt, And I call it an attempt because being a rock band, like you can never really get that big. there's like a cap. Yeah. I think this was a really good move for me, for sure. Just for all those reasons. Like I'm mentally so much more stable.
Are you familiar with Sturgill Simpson?
No.
Okay. Well, if you're not, after this, you should check it out. His music's incredible, but he's like the beacon of what you're going through. He's an expansive. He's got an extensive library of music from the idea of classic country to alternative space rock. And he also has adapted to this version of what we're talking about here. And I was going to ask you about him too, because simply there might be some sort of like some sort of influence to take away from it, not only not in what you're doing, but to solidify what you are doing for yourself. Because he's got a great life now,
Sure, I'll look him up.
Sturgill Simpson. Yeah.
Sturgill Simpson, that's quite a name.
Great.
Breaking away from that, Justin, do you want to ask him about his early idols?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I know it's question, 101, usually when you're speaking to someone who's a musician, but Josh, at what point, A, did you decide you want to be a musician, and B, who is the artist or artist that kind of made you go, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. That's my direction. I mean, was there someone when you were 10 years old and you saw it on TV or heard on the radio, went, yeah, I think that's it.
Blink-182 was that was like the biggest inspiration for the like playing the guitar. Really, it was like that band, and I was a huge fan of that band. Again, I was a piano player first, so I used to play like classical music, and I would write songs on the piano, and I didn't really care for anything else. And then when I saw that band, and I would like on LimeWire, I would download live videos of them like playing live on stage, because my parents wouldn't let me go to the concerts when I was really young. And I would see them just like making fart jokes and being completely juvenile on stage with each other, and then making this beautiful music, playing terribly live. They weren't very good live, but there was something so appealing about it. I was like, that's the life I want. Like just being a child in front of a bunch of people and being loved for it. I thought that was so cool. So that was a huge influence. Obviously, we don't sound like that at all, but it was just the lifestyle. Like that's what got me.
Yeah, of a certain age, it's either Blink or Green Day does a good job of motivating people at that of a certain age to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All those bands, that whole era. Like, I remember I had Avril Lavigne's first record, and I used to play guitar to Skater Boy, and I put the CD on my guitar amp, and the CD would skip because I would turn the amp up. So like this is like my early memories of like playing the guitar for the first time. It was like jamming to Skater Boy.
Were you a self-taught guitar player? Did you take lessons?
No, I never took lessons.
Really? Okay. Well, Good for you. I don't know. The self-taught thing always is confusing me. I'm like, how does someone who have no knowledge of an instrument be able to listen, pick it up, and then just start playing along? I think it's an incredible skill.
Well, I think it's as simple as that. Music is a language to me that, this is so pretentious and LA sounding. I thought I got away from this, but music is like a language that I just understand inherently. But it really is, like, I just get it.
Yeah.
I just always have understood it, and I've been like, I can analyze music without having any theory or knowledge of it better than I can analyze most other things, especially better than I can analyze like actual words and people. I think, I don't know. I just get it. Like I hear a certain chord change happen, and I'm like, ooh, this evoked this emotion in me. Got it. Store that in the bank. And then you just, like, when you get on an instrument for the first time, you literally just play around with it until you can find those patterns and those shapes that make the sounds you want, and boom. And it just happens really quick. It always happened for me. Like, I don't think there's an instrument that I can't play unless it requires a technique that you have to learn that's really complicated. Like playing a violin or a stringed instrument like that with a bow. If you don't have that technique down and the pressure you have to put on the bow, it's kind of tricky. But with a guitar, you just press your fingers in the right little spots and you strum. And so it's pretty easy to figure out as long as you know what you want to hear. You just make it happen, I guess. I don't know. That's how I always did it.
Well, you know, what
Piano
you just
came
said was,
first, right?
yeah.
Sorry. I was going to say piano came first, right?
Sorry?
Did piano come first?
Yeah, piano was first.
Okay. That makes sense.
Which is the easiest one. You just press. Like, there's no technique. There's nothing. You just press down.
Right now, classical pianists are dropping dead at what you're saying. You just press.
No, like, of course,
Like,
there's,
press your face into this freaking toilet, brother.
But the thing is that people get too wrapped up in like the techniques and the theory and this and that. Like this,
Sure.
it's not about your fingers. It's about what your ears are picking up and how your brain is perceiving it. Like that's all that matters. The rest of it is just it's just how to get there. And if you struggle with that, then learning these techniques and taking lessons could be helpful. But I'd never struggled with what exactly I wanted to hear. And so then it was just putting the pieces together. And it was like, cool, when I press this one, it makes that sound. And when I combine it with this one, it makes that sound. Cool, noted, stored. Now I have that in my arsenal of things that I can do. And it just builds from there.
Power chords. Can you tell me about the first time? Because what I'm imagining is very similar to what I felt when I first learned what a power chord was, and the idea that I can make this shape anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes if I make it here and here, it sounds like shit. But when I make it here and here, it kind of fucking works. And if I move this finger, oh wow, that makes me feel weird inside, right? And yeah. I'm assuming you have something that I never played piano. It was guitar first, you know, like I barely knew anything else, you know, at all. But I would assume that like that shape has followed you like at like a knife in your fucking back since you started playing guitar, because like you want to be better than the power chord, but the power chord will always be better than you know? Does that make sense?
I'm not afraid of the power chord. That doesn't
man.
scare me. I'm fine with it.
You pick up a guitar in Guitar Center and somebody's looking at you like, what's he gonna do? And you just like fucking straight up go, never mind. You just go straight to Nirvana, you know, like, oh,
the thing is, like, the power chord with some palm mutes in there, like, it's an unbeatable feeling. It really is. Like, it's just great. And I embrace that. Like, I don't care. Our songs are typically quite simple too, musically. I mean, I guess we have little moments that can get complex, but we don't overthink any of it. Like, if power chords are the way, then power chords are the way. You know?
Yeah. Do you like Violent Soho?
I haven't looked into Violent Soho enough. Like, I know that people really love them.
I feel like that's your shit, man.
But maybe it is.
Like, yeah. Check it out. Maybe some Sturgill Simpson after that. I don't know. But yeah, I just listening to you and your love
make me a playlist. Sometimes this happens a lot in my life where I become a very specific type of person and I go in a certain direction, musically or whatever. And then somebody comes to me and like, oh, so you're doing like what this person did. And I'm like, who's this person? And then I listen to that person. I'm like, fuck, I am. But I didn't try. Like, I didn't know who this was.
Well, it should be also just validation that like, hey man, like I'm not alone here. And sometimes not being alone is like the fucking best feeling ever, right?
Well, yes and no. I feel usually when something like that happens to me, it sparks some kind of competition where I'm like, well, if that person's doing it and they're doing it well, I have to do it better.
Well, that's even better.
Yeah, so that happens a lot in my life and career when it comes to music, where I'm like, man, this sounds kind of like something that this person would have done, but how can I make it in such a way that this person would have never thought to do it that makes it so much better? You know, that kind of thing.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
What are you listening to right now?
I've been putting on, for some reason, this where I'm our video's off, but you can't see, but I'm in a bar, and it's just like something very old timey about it. So I just put on like a 40s, 50s, 60s playlist, and so I'm listening just to like oldie, awesome Sinatra-esque stuff. It's great.
Oh, okay, far out. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Huh. And you know, there's something to be said about that too. I know a lot of other artists, and I found this as well. It's best when you're in creative mode, and I'm only taking a break from writing right now while I build the studio, but I've been in writing mode for the most part, and it's smart to not consume too much new music because that stuff starts to rub off on you, unless that's what you want. Like, I guess if you're trying to write radio hits, then listen to the radio, and that, you know, these melodic changes and whatever, they'll start to rub off on you and they'll start to come out in your music. But it's really interesting to not listen to anything new and to either consume nothing and just allow the music to play in your head, whatever's there, or to listen to something really old or classical or whatever, and let that be more of an influencer, so you're not copying whatever's trending.
That's good point.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not saying that I'm doing this consciously, but I'm kind of glad that when I put on these playlists, I'm like, this is also smart for me to do while I'm in creative mode. It's almost like a palate cleanser or something. When you're like, you know, when you're eating food and you eat a palate cleanser, like I'm getting all the modern out of my head so I can just like think clearly and be original.
All the ginger on your tongue
Mm-hmm.
right now.
Exactly.
Well, I was gonna say too. Yeah, you're right. If you listen to too much, I can imagine it kind of steers you into a way of, and not you, Josh, particularly, but some bands would be like, "Oh, this is the sound that's happening. Is this what we have to sound like?" And then they're swayed instead of listening to something that's already written in stone and it's just enjoyable. And maybe you can pick up a few ideas and modernize them.
Yeah. Well, that happens a lot with me, especially. Sure. I listen to and usually not rock. When I'm listening to like rock radio and stuff like that, I feel quite different than a lot of those bands in a lot of ways. I guess in some ways I'm not, but I don't have as much of an attachment. I listen more to like the newer poppier rock leaning stuff. Like I'll listen to like what Youngblood's doing or a group like that we don't really sound like necessarily, but I'm like, man, that's really working. And I understand why it's working. And sometimes that will start to rub off on me and change how I write. And sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it's cool. But other times I get wrapped up in it. I'm like, oh man, I'll never have a super insane like 14-year-old fan base. I'm like, well, do I really want one? Nah.
I'll never have a really wide mouth. I love that dude too. But like, shit. It's got like a Steven Tyler thing going on. I'm like, I can't even get my mouth that open. That's so fucking. Oh man. Well, you know, even like what Justin just said, like coming back and taking those influences and thinking about the live space, right? Like you guys had been when the EP came out, you know, you had been basically grinding the fucking road, opening up for all the big acts, you know, from Shinedown to Nothing More. The Rex, perfect example of something that's new and kind of leans in that pop area. The Struts, another one of them, you know, like, and then here you come on 2019 with your own record, and now you've got to like go out there. You watch them, right? You can play all the fucking residencies and all the fucking high schools in the whole fucking world. I've done it, you've done it. But like there's a different feeling when there's a fucking room full of more than 100 of your friends in like what you might call a fan, and they know your fucking words, you know, and they're doing that every night, and there's thousands of them. Like, how do you take that on the road? Like, can you tell us about like your first tour, you know, as not tour, but like your first headlining? Tour.
Well, I mean, we've always done like little headline shows on the way to tours or like between tours. Our first real major headline tour was the last tour that we did, which was the OK I'm Sick tour, was the tour to support the album. And it came after Nothing More, and after Shinedown, and after a lot of big ones, and then during all of that stuff, a lot of radio success with multiple singles. And so our first time actually headlining, we sold out almost every room, and it was like, it was really amazing. It's still amazing to think about, but the shitty thing is it becomes normalized really fast. And so I understand why so many artists become divas, because I am one, and I get why. Like, it's just, it becomes a normal part of your life. And then when a show isn't sold out, you're like, well, why did they book this venue? Why did they book this city? Clearly this wasn't the right city. You know, like it gets nasty. And so as much as rewarding as it is when people are like, a lot of people show up to sing your lyrics, like, I need to remember to go back to the farm when I'm all done and spread some manure over my field and like be a human. I don't know. Like, I don't really, it's a weird thing. Like, I don't want to just give you the generic answer. Like, it's amazing. It's so cool. And we blew up so quick. And like, we did all those things, but it changed me in some ways, when I sort of recognized it, that I don't like that version of myself. So I don't know. I sometimes I do actually fear, again, we're a rock band, so we can never really get that big. There's a cap on it. But I do fear a little bit, like, what am I going to be like if I'm at this level? Like, how is this going to change me as a person? And how depressed am I going to end up being once this amount of attention is normalized in my life? And this amount of love from people who barely know me. It's a weird thing, and nobody teaches you how to navigate that. That's the weirdest part about this, is like, I don't even know if this was your question, but here I go on a tangent. Nobody teaches you how to deal with that very foreign thing. It's very foreign, and not a lot of people experience it, like being loved by people and being in a position where you're able to disappoint people, especially nowadays when everybody's getting canceled left and right. It's like, wow, there's so many people who love me, and they're just more like, I disappoint my family constantly, and they're like my family. How the fuck am I going to like keep all of you not disappointed in my actions or who I am? And I don't know. It's fucking weird. It's weird.
Dude, that's like the literal like version of a nightmare, right? Like when you have to like showup.com consistently and, you know, go out. Like, I just, you know, honestly, dude, if I was you, because I thought about this a lot of times, like, okay, you know, because Wilson got to a space, but it never got above that space we wanted to. And maybe that's by design. I don't know. But the idea of what I always thought I would do is like, I'm just going to shit my fucking pants, like on stage. So like, that's it. That's as low as you can go, you know, like, and then if you love me at my lowest, right? I guess everything else up is looking Millhouse from here, you know?
Yeah, but shitting your pants on stage is different than like somebody calling you out for something you did when you were like 18 that wasn't the nicest thing. You know what I mean? Like, they're different. Shitting your pants is like, somebody might feel bad for you and like, oh man, he must be really sick or something. No, but like being a jerk as a teenager and then that coming back to bite you in the ass, or even being a jerk now because I had a bad and I had a bad interaction with somebody, or something happened, or somebody fucking lied about whatever it is. Like,
right.
That's so ridiculous how much, you know, what's the craziest thing too? God, this tangent always happens when I do interviews. I'm writing a lot of songs about it, about like this pedestal that people put artists on that's not like we don't deserve at all. Fuck, what was I just gonna say? Now I just lost my train of thought. I've had a glass.
Let me chime in. Maybe you'll get trained back. I find it very, and what you're saying, Josh, is I can imagine going.
Oh, I remember now. Sorry.
Okay, well, I'll let you finish your thought. Okay.
Wait, did I just forget again? No, I did. I forgot again. Fuck. Wait.
Not pooping your pants, being a jerk when you're younger.
Yeah. No,
I remember. No, I was talking about how, look, the types of songs that these types of artists like us and artists like, you know, especially rock bands and people who write things that are a bit uncomfortable and they don't just write bubblegum pop. Like, we write some of the most uncomfortable shit because we're very flawed people. And then for some reason, when those flaws come out in our personal lives, people are like, what? You're supposed to be a saint. If you're an influencer of any kind and you did this, I'm gonna burn all your records and this and that. It's like, bitch, have you heard the shit I've written? I'm clearly fucked up. how is it new to you that like I'm kind of a villain at times in my life? Like I'm not perfect. Anyway, I think it's bizarre. Like stop holding artists to such a high standard. Like we're more flawed than you are probably. That's why we're creative.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the issues that face bands and like you're saying is like it's really hard for artists to have an off night, because if you go from town to town, there's going to be a kid in the next town that's never seen you live, and you always feel like you have to be on your A game. So the pressure mounts that every night has to be just fluid. Otherwise, you're going to disappoint that person who's never seen you before.
Yeah. I mean, there is that, but that's like the normal struggle of an artist, and that's okay.
Sure.
That's part
Yeah.
of the job. I think what I'm talking about more is like how your personal life meshes with your professional life, and how people take it so seriously, like it's everything. I don't know. It's weird.
Sure.
But no, that part of it I actually don't mind. Like that's one of those things that I like. It keeps me on my toes. If I'm playing for 15 people in some random city, and even though the night before I played for 3,000, like I'm gonna put on the same show, if not a better show, for those 15 people. And I like that. I like that. The fear of disappointing that guy is fine. Like that's perfectly acceptable to me.
Yeah.
And I won't disappoint him because I'll do a good job, because I always do. I always put on a good show. And so does my band.
Well, we can always do the Fugazi model. Just charge $5 a night, and you never have to worry about disappointing because it's only $5.
Even that, people will still complain.
Yeah, right. Why wasn't it $4.50?
I drove all the way out there. I couldn't find parking just for you to talk about my president like that. Like that's what happens.
Hey, listen, we're kind of getting close on time, Josh, but we want to just finish out with this thing we do called Walk the Plank, which is 3 questions we ask, one from Chad, one from myself, and then one from a fan. And they're just random questions, and really we just need just your thought on whatever your answer is.
Let's go.
All right.
I'm going to go first. Is that cool?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So, hey, Josh, my question to you is, how do you think our culture will change in the next 100 years?
Oh, my goodness. Is this supposed to be like rapid fire? Because I can write a novel on this.
Ooh.
I think we're basically becoming cyborgs. And I think we just have to embrace it, whether it's good or bad for humanity. I think we're going to be leaning on technology in the same way that we've always leaned on things like fire, which was a technology in its own right when it was new. You know, like it's that I think that's going to shift culture like crazy. I mean, obviously we're so connected. We're going to continue to be connected, and I think we're going to see a loss of a lot of things that were really beautiful about being human, but also the rise of a lot of new things we don't even know about humanity that's going to come from this next wave of whatever. I don't know what those things are yet, but I think they as much negativity as there is that comes along with it, there's going to be a lot of positivity too. Once we get over this hump of trying to figure it out, which I feel like we're in now.
Fantastic. Yeah. All right. My question to you, Josh, is what do you complain about more than anything else?
Ooh. What do I complain about more? I'm asking my manager.
Not being able to do the shit you want to do.
Yeah, having to do anything I don't want to do. having to do anything I don't feel like doing in the moment. Oh, singing in the morning.
Oh, total complaint.
The worst.
Fucking kill me before I have to do a radio. I think that's dead. I think showing up at radio stations, I think COVID killed it, and I'm not mad at all. I'll do Zoom calls with them. I don't need to sing. I don't need to sing at 6 a.m. for your 6 a.m. listeners. I'm sorry. I'm not going to. I'll say I have COVID. I'm sorry. I can't.
Oh.
No, I hate singing in the morning. It's the worst thing ever. People are like, you sound fine. I don't sound fine.
It's not about you, right? Yeah, man. That's a good one. Do you want to do this? We got a fan question. This will be our third and last one. Justin, you want me to take it, or do you got it?
You take it, son.
All right. Well, thanks, Dad. What's been the most spiritual experience of your life?
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's such a big question.
Way to go, Chad.
Well, it's a fan.
I understand.
I would say I don't know if I have one that's like the definitive moment, but like one example of something really powerful would be like the first time an audience sang the words of Ghost Back. Not of any other song, of that song. And I got to see the reaction and tears in people's eyes who had connected so deeply with it. And I realized that I had done something by writing those lyrics. I had done something really helpful for people. That might be it. And I've done mushrooms a handful of times, and those are a pretty big deal. But like, I think that would probably be the most like, because it affected me long term. Like, still affects me in the best ways.
Do you think that you'll ever do mushrooms while singing the song?
Never. No. I'll do mushrooms again, but not around people.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah.
That's also, I understand that. That's a scary thing. That's a shit your pants moment, for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Josh, before we sign off with you, man, we've got to ask what do you have right now? I know you can't read the tea leaves, but what do you guys have planned right now for 2021?
I have nothing to promote. Nothing.
All right.
We just know we're going to keep writing. We have, there's going to be a single soon, I'm sure.
Okay.
I can't say anything yet.
Festivals.
But yeah, we have festivals coming up, assuming they don't get canceled. We have lots of festivals. And, just you'll find it all on social media when it's time.
All right. Well, fantastic. Well, guys, thank you, Josh. Thank you so much, Josh from Badflower tonight. This is Making Waves. This is the first episode of 2021 for us, and this has been a fantastic look in introspection from one of our favorite artists from ShipRocked. Hopefully, Josh, maybe around summertime we can do kind of like circle back, see where things are at with you guys, if that's cool.
Absolutely. This is a
absolutely.
blast.
So. Yeah, thank you. Listen, guys, remember to check out their album "I'm Sick" from 2019, and just stick around and pay attention to the socials and see what they've got going on. He mentioned they'd probably be working on a single, and hopefully, if things go well, we'll probably look at some later in the year festival dates for them. But again, guys, this is Making Waves. We are part of the Sound Talent Media podcast family, and guys, you can find us in anywhere you get your podcasts. And when you do, please subscribe to us, rate, review us, and then tell some of your friends about us. And one little bit of housekeeping here, guys, if you go to our ShipRocked.com, you can always go to our shop and find some of our new goods for 2021, 2022. Speaking of 2022, cabins are still available, so go to ShipRocked.com to make your reservations now. So on behalf of myself, Justin, Chad, we want to thank Josh, obviously, and we also want to thank the Ask For crew that help put this thing together all the time, every week. We want to thank our producer, Al McManus, our engineer, Jennifer, our show coordinator, Heather, and then, of course, the captain, Alan Koenig.
Chat of Josh's new farm. I want to thank the cows that are coming in the future, because I shall pet them. I'm coming to your farm, and I'm going to pet the crap out of those cows.
Come to the farm. You're welcome. Come by. I mean, you're in LA, so that's a big flight.
Detroit.
Oh, you're in Detroit. Sorry.
Not far.
Yeah, you're not that far, dude. Just come drive over here.
I'm coming. See you tomorrow.
Right, well, how now, brown cow. Guys, everyone, take care. Have a great weekend. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Remember to rock hard and vacation harder.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks for coming, Josh.
Much appreciated.
Have a good night, man.